Starving Artist Podcast with Dave Fowler. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of the Starving Artist Podcast. I'm here with the one and only Scott Hamilton. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for taking some time to hop on.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So we met last year at Terrificon, which was, I think it's probably my favorite show for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's the easiest to get to. The parking's great. You know what I mean? Just walk right in. It's so smooth. I know you're a fan of it too. And I know that you've been on the convention scene for a while doing a lot of stuff. So where does your journey begin?
30 years, man. Well, my journey began 30 years ago. A friend of mine wanted to sell comics at a convention. He wanted to start just selling comics and trading cards at conventions. So he asked me if I wanted to help. I'm like, yeah, hanging around selling comics. Yeah, why not? So we did that for a couple of shows. And then I did a show by myself with the stuff. And I did some of my own stuff, action figures and that the like. And nobody was buying. I was in the back corner of the Park Plaza Hotel in Boston. It was like a 2-room show, but I was in the back corner, no flow to the room. Nobody was coming back at all. So I decided to draw myself as Colossus. So I took an X-Men trading card and I put it on the table and I took a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. I drew myself full color as the Colossus trading card. I'd never drawn myself before. So as I'm drawing it, a little kid comes over and says, "How much to draw me as Superman?" And I went, "What?" And he said, "How much to draw me as Superman?" I said, "I don't know, $5." And so I drew him as Superman.
Wow.
And then his dad came down and said, "How much to draw me as Superman?" I said, $5. So by the time I was halfway through that drawing, I had a line. And so I drew people the rest of the day.
Wow.
First, for 8 hours, I drew people for $5 a pop, full color, 8.5 by 11.
Wow.
And at the end of the show, the guy came over and said, "How much for all the stuff on your table?" I said, "Well, which thing you want to buy? The cards, comics, what?" He said, "No, how much for all of it?" And I said, $600. And so he pulls 6 brand new $100 bills out of his wallet and says, "You should be drawing at these things, not selling this crap." And 30 years later, I'm still doing it.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously for those that aren't aware, you are a caricature artist.
Yes,
and
primarily.
I am a very happy owner of a caricature of me as
Oh,
one of my favorite characters, Big Lebowski. But just even at the show that we did, it was crazy just seeing the constant flow of people coming to your table. And it's like such a niche, such an awesome thing to do. I mean, was it always kind of character stuff? Like what kind of prompted that? Because, when everybody starts off, they want to be a comic artist and, they have these influences, and whether it's the Alex Rosses or the Jim Lees or the Star, you know what I mean?
So I've been collecting comics since I was 5 years old. I actually have the first issue I ever had as a kid. I bought it. I found it through some, just asking people on Facebook. There was an ad with Superman flying with a peace sign.
Oh, wow.
And it was that ad for a poster. So I said, "Does anybody know in 1972, 1972, Superman comic, Action Comics with this ad?" And there was 5 comics that ad was in. And so I looked at the cover and immediately knew that the one that had the ad was the one I had when I was a kid. So I bought it. And so I've got it.
That's awesome.
So, and that's when I started drawing, because I drew that picture of Superman flying with the peace sign. So I've always wanted to draw superheroes. I've always drawn cartoons. When I was in high school, my freshman art teacher said I'd never get anywhere drawing that stuff. So I didn't draw for 2 years. And then in my new high school, junior year, my art teacher said, "That stuff's great, but let's do other stuff too." So, and then, I went in the Army for 3 years active duty, and I did a couple of portraits for people and, drew every once in a while, but I didn't really draw a lot. And then when I came home, a couple of years after I got home from the Army, I was working at an athletic club as a front desk manager, and I used to come in at the crack of dawn, like an hour early for all the early birds. And so that left me with like an hour and a half with nothing to do. Because once they came in, no one else came in until the club opened. So I drew myself for fun off my license. And then again, I didn't even plan on doing caricatures. I was just at the convention bored and drew myself, and it turned into a business right then.
One little chance kind of
Yeah,
chance
just
thing.
right. That guy that bought all my stuff, if he hadn't done that and somebody said, who knows if I still be doing it today.
Yeah. That's awesome how that works out. It's like those little chance encounters that you're not even at the time it happens, you're not really even aware that it's kind of a life changing or pretty impactful moment.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
that's nuts. So I mean, was there ever kind of a desire to be a comic artist, or was it? Because I know, I mean, everybody, at least when I know, and for myself included, when we started with the whole kind of art thing, it was, man, I want to be a comic artist because obviously
Hmm.
comics, that was the big inspiration, the art, the storytelling, whatever it is that people get out of them, personally. But then you kind of realize that, wow, drawing comics and just drawing in general are two totally different fucking things.
Right.
And sequential art is a lot different than pinups and this other stuff that, that we might be comfortable doing. So was that kind of the initial goal for you starting off? Was it to be a comic artist, or what was
When
your
I
first
was
kind of?
when I was in high school, I drew a couple of sequential pages. I wanted to be a comic artist, but I was always a procrastinator. And although I had the desire to draw comics, I didn't have the drive to draw sequential art. My drive is more for illustration, portraits, caricature, um, cartoon stuff,
Right.
all kinds of different illustration stuff, all paintings, but never to sit down and draw for hours for a comic book.
Right.
I let the guys that I love do that, and I read
Sure.
their stuff, and I enjoy it that way.
Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, it's there's so many different ways to kind of be creative and to tell stories, and telling stories is something that you like to do. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do that too. So, and I know, I mean, I think the cool thing too is a lot of the stuff that you do is digital. So,
Right.
I mean,
Most of the stuff I do is digital these
right.
days.
Where did
I
where
do
did the digital thing come in?
well. So 7 years ago, my adopted daughter Amanda Howlett um, was a Twitch streamer, and she kept saying, "Oh, you should stream your art."
Mm,
And I said, "Well, I don't know." And there was no instruction how to do it. There was
sure.
no like, here's a web page, go here and do all this stuff. It was a lot of stuff to do. I was working, doing convention. I was doing like 30 conventions a year.
Oh wow.
Plus, I was working a full time job. So I didn't really have the interest to look into it. But then I said, well, if I'm going to stream, I'm not going to do it on paper. And I want an iPad. So
Yeah.
kill two birds with one stone, buy an iPad, start streaming digitally.
Right.
So that's how it started. That's how it started on the iPad. Doing it at conventions started probably 4 years ago. And my first convention doing it digitally was Terrificon.
Wow. The one that I met you at?
Yeah, no. This is
Oh,
years
okay.
before. This is
Okay.
years before. Yeah, I think I met you this last one, right?
Yeah, yeah, the past one. Yeah,
Yeah, this is
2021.
4 years ago.
Okay.
But I had a big monitor on my table and I had my iPad, and
So people
I
could see as they're walking by. You mean the monitor was set up so they could see it?
my iPad was wirelessly displayed on the monitor,
That's so cool.
so people
Okay.
could see me drawing, and that's all I did was draw digitally.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking I don't want to lug all that crap around, so I started doing it again on paper, like I was doing when I met you.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't mind drawing on paper, but I did switch to just black and white because there was a lot of times where I took in commissions, but then I over committed to doing color at home, and then I would just be late with them, and I felt bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, the customers felt bad, so I decided, just black and white. I can bang it out in 15 minutes,
Right.
10, 15 minutes, be done, get a lot more done, make a lot of people happy, and then go home and with money and
Sure.
not
Sure.
worry about taking it home with me.
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with black and white. As you know, I'm a huge fan of black and white.
Right. I've got two of your pieces hanging over there, so
I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's weird too because when I met you, that was the first convention that I had done that I was really happy about and looking forward to, because I felt like I have this certain art style now. I have my banners and all the stuff that's kind of supporting me is what I want it to be, and it was all paper. I had my paper and my canvases and the stuff that I was selling, and I feel like for
right.
the last like 6 or 7 months, I've really been almost all digital. So it's it's totally different now than it was when I was then. But digital, like, it's kind of addictive, man. There's no cleanup. there's no ink I got to clean. There's no brushes I got to clean. There's no pens I got to clean. Ink I got to
Right.
load. All that
I
kind of
could
fun
just,
stuff.
I can carry my iPad upstairs and draw on the couch.
Yeah,
If I want to
exactly. I
do that
mean,
with my paper, I got to bring pens, markers, my drawing
sure.
board, something to put the drawing board on my lap. It's just,
Yeah,
I can
I
just
mean, I know.
crank out iPad stuff on an airplane,
Sure.
in the car, in my living room, in my bedroom.
Yeah,
Although I
digital is
usually like to
definitely.
sleep in the bedroom.
Oh yeah. I mean, luckily I have a studio, so I mean, I kind of retreat in here when I can.
Yeah.
In the mornings mostly, and just have that time. But digital, it's like it's such a different world that it kind of opens up, and I definitely find myself now if I'm when I'm working traditionally, double tapping the paper, trying to undo the last
Yeah.
thing that I
Yeah.
did, or
I've
trying to
done that.
zoom into the paper here and there.
Right. Right.
So, but
Or you draw a line and I'm like, oops. And then you
yeah,
go to undo and you're like, I can't undo an ink line on paper.
yep. Or I try to like, oh, I want to move this eye over. Shit, I got to redraw the whole thing now. I can't just
Right.
kind of cut
Right.
it and drag it over there. Oh man, that's yeah, it's funny. So like you're starting off as an artist. I mean, I know that we're doing the black and white stuff now, but when obviously when a teacher or someone that you look up to tells you like, oh, there's no future in this for you, and you stop drawing for 2 years, I mean, to come back to that with another teacher's like, no, you can do this, do something else too. I mean, that's got to be tough. Like, where does the fire come from to kind of start over again and start drawing after someone that's kind of important told you basically to fucking kick rocks?
So the guy that told me I'd never get anywhere drawing that stuff, I think it was the second class, and I was just doodling. We hadn't started the class yet. I was just drawing superhero stuff on a piece of paper, and that's when he came over and looked down at it and said, "You're never going to get anywhere doing that." And when I switched schools, I used to get bullied a lot at the first school. I tried to do sports and I got bullied, so I quit sports. And I was a very shy kid, which you'd never know it by me, knowing me today.
Yeah, it's
So I switched schools. I came to move with my dad, and I said, well, because in this school you could pick whatever classes you wanted to take. So I didn't
okay.
have to take chemistry. I didn't have to take, all the stuff you have to take in a normal high school. I took anatomy, physiology. I took oceanography.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to take an art class because I'm going to get an A in it because I know how to draw,
Right.
which was very arrogant. And I didn't really know how to draw. I could draw, but I wasn't fantastic. But she had me do sculpture. She had me do
Oh, wow.
architectural drawing. She had me do painting. She had me draw a self-portrait, which, unbeknownst to me, she put in a library show for student artists.
Jesus.
And people were like, oh, I love that picture you did in the library. I'm like, what picture in the library? She didn't tell any of us. I went in the library and went, oh, that.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty good endorsement then, though.
Yeah. And even then, my portrait was like these days, you can do so much with depth and color. And,
Right.
back then it was very flat. And you'll see a lot of new artists drawing faces. It's very
Of
flat.
course. Yeah. No contour.
So, yeah. So because of her, I drew most of high school. And I also had a couple of extra independent studies senior year to try different things in art to keep myself busy. So, yeah, but then, like I said, after high school and I went in the army, it kind of dropped off.
Right. Understandable.
I would draw every once in a while to keep myself busy, and a couple of times people saw me do it and asked me if I could draw a portrait of someone in their family, or. But doing this stuff at the comic convention, that's really what spurred it back on.
Yeah,
it got me back into drawing.
That's so cool. What was your first gig as an artist, a paid gig?
My first paid gig as an artist was at the athletic club I worked at. I did a kid's birthday party.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the guy that organized it, Neil, said, he came up to me and he said, "You want to draw caricatures for a birthday party?" I'm like, "What?" Because I'd never drawn live.
Right.
I drew with people in front of me, but I was spending a half an hour on those.
Sure.
I wasn't going to sit there and little kids running around spend a half an hour. So, but I did it, and nobody was disappointed. So that kind of kicked it off. Yeah. And I went through a lot of years. I think up until 2007, maybe. I didn't know any other caricature artists. None. I had seen caricature artists at Faneuil Hall. I'd met them at conventions, but I'd never got training, never got tutelage. And a caricature artist, Tim Reed, was hiring for Cocoa Key Water Park for caricature artists on the weekends.
Wow.
I said, I'll go and check it out. I'm sure I can do that. And I drew a caricature of one of the employees, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible, but it could have, Tim said, well, after the guy left, he said, "Here, let me show you some things to improve it, but we're going to give you a try." and I drew at the water park for a while. And it was weekends, and I'd just go in for a couple of days, draw caricatures. Um, and it was a good gig. And then I, found the International Society of Caricature Artists and found that there's a huge community of caricature artists all over the world.
Mm.
And because of Tim and because of going to one of those conventions in 2008, I was just even more inspired to draw caricature. And so, now I love to draw. I can't say I draw as much as I can because I work, I'm cooking, I'm doing the cookbook, I'm doing the conventions.
You do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff, and then I got to spend time with my wife.
Right.
So, and then I game, I'm a streamer as well for gaming. So yeah, I'm trying to get less busy, but at 55, I'm busier than I ever was.
Right. Yeah, no, I know the feeling. It's you try to do less, but you end up doing more. It's nuts. It's just this.
But I don't mind.
I'll just do this. It's not going to be a lot. I'll just
right.
This
I got another idea. Let me try this out.
Yeah, for sure. So, you're working as a character artist, and I mean, it's going pretty well. It just kind of progressively gets bigger and bigger, and then, like you said, international character artists and stuff. And I mean, was it kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, or was there always some other things that you're doing on the side too? Because I know you said that you do other things besides character, illustration and whatnot too.
Sure.
When did you start kind of branching out and doing different things?
That was probably a couple years after I started streaming with the iPad. I started drawing emotes for people's Twitch streams. I started drawing, doing banners and overlays and cartoony stuff for them, avatars and mascots. And then I started doing some logo design. People ask, "Oh, could you do a logo for me?" I'm like, "Oh, why not?"
Right. Well, you work you work as a graphic artist, web developer, correct?
No. I work in a dental software company.
I thought, okay, because when we met, I thought you were a software developer.
No, I'm a senior quality assurance software test engineer.
Test engineer. Okay,
so I test software.
Okay.
I couldn't. I as an artist, I couldn't write code. I couldn't sit and look at lines of code all day long. It would drive me batty.
That's my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I'm sure you have the mindset. I don't.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of those things, like there's a couple things in my life that I've just really enjoyed doing. Like obviously art's one of them, music's one of them, and like coding is just another one, which I kind of started years ago off a little like netbook. And I mean, now I work for the government and doing software development. So it's pretty good. Yeah, sorry. I didn't say where. It's, but yeah, because I remember, when you had your table set up and covered with different people, and it was really cool. I mean, I know that you handle all that stuff yourself too, like your own graphics, and your presentation is pretty spot on. It's awesome. It's bright fucking orange. It's beautiful.
Yeah. When I started, I had the regular tablecloth that just the conventions would provide you.
Yeah, the plain.
And I started doing this at shows. I did it at the Boston show. I did it when Boston Comic-Con was Boston Comic-Con the entire time. So when it's Boston Comic-Con started to when Fan Expo bought it, and that's a whole other story. But yeah, so I like doing that, but I like the caricature stuff. I like to draw everything, but
it's fun.
Yeah, when it all comes down to it, the caricature stuff is what I'm good at, and it's what makes the most money, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of cool for someone to say, "Hey, can you draw me as this character?" For me, can you draw me as Big Lebowski? It's
right.
Awesome. It's cool
sure,
to look at.
Yeah, sure. Give me 20 minutes. Yeah.
Sure. No, that's cool.
And I've had people draw me as a My Little Pony, or draw me as a Minecraft thing, or I've had people draw me as a variety of different things that aren't human at all. But yeah, I do it. And I've mashed characters together. It's like, what's your favorite character? Well, Robin and, the White Power Ranger. Well, which one? Well, I'm not sure. Well, then why don't I just put them together?
That's cool. It's like you're literally creating different characters too.
Yeah.
So you like the Jack Kirby of character artists. You're just creating a whole universe of these.
I wouldn't say I'm a Jack Kirby, because that would be like high praise, but yeah.
That's awesome. So the cookbook, I mean, where the hell did that come from?
So I like to cook, and roughly 5 years ago, I watched this chef on Twitch, which is a streaming platform for those of your viewers who might not know what Twitch is.
Sure.
So what he does is he was a professional chef, and he decided he wanted to stay home and take care of his daughter more. And so he started cooking from home and doing it on Twitch. And he became really big, and he plates it. He's a Michelin star chef. He
Wow.
plates the food on Twitch live while he's cooking it. And he's a really fun guy. And I said, let me try that. So my first thing was a hamburger. And I took a hamburger and put ketchup, little dots all over the plate, and made it really artsy, and it looked really good. And I said, I really like cooking. I really like plating. I'm going to start doing that more. And then recently, in the past year, probably a year and a half, I really started putting a lot of effort into plating artistically and cooking everything from scratch. Like I made homemade ravioli a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
From scratch.
Wow. Okay.
The pasta and the filling and everything. But now I'm taking a photography course on how to take pictures of your food or anything, but the food is the focus right now.
Sure.
So that I can take nice pictures and use them in a cookbook and post them online so that they're more attractive. And people say, hey, I want to eat that. I'm going to follow this guy.
Yeah. Thirst trap for food photos. It's fucking
great. And that's a whole other business. That's called art in cooking.
Okay. Well,
and
it's still that artistic kind of representation. I mean,
sure,
it's like you can take
creative,
food, but still find a way to make it, that add that art element to it. That's so cool.
Right. Another creative avenue.
Yeah. No, I mean, cooking, it's funny. It's funny how many, like every time I talk to artists, like there's so many similarities, obviously, with different things, but we started getting HelloFresh a couple of months ago. And that's been amazing because essentially it's all scratch ingredients that you're making. It's not it's not prepared in the sense where you heat it up. Like you got to cut everything up. You got to measure out the stuff, and it's been fantastic. So I'm kind of in that same thing too, as every night, like I don't post them on, my Instagram feed itself. I do mostly stories where it's just like what I cook tonight, and everybody's like, oh, that looks so good. But there is that element of it where it's like, I really kind of like the plating of this stuff, and let me make sure it looks good. And
it's
just for me and staff, me and my wife, but it's like, let me try to make it look good, that kind of niceness of it too. So that's
well, one of the things they say about cooking is that you eat with your eyes first. So you look at the plate and then you eat the food. And if the plate looks like a plate of slop, you're not going to be really enthused to eat it.
Right.
It might taste amazing, but that first initial look, so I like my plates. You look at the plate and you go, oh, like I made a tuna melt the other day. All it was a tuna melt, piece of bread, toast with tuna and mayo and some fresh herbs from my arrow garden and pieces of tomato on top. I put a couple things in the background, and
oh wow,
people are like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Oh, it's the photo.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. It just
okay.
A simple tuna melt, you can make people go, wow, I really want to eat that right now.
Yeah, I mean, fucking image is everything, like they say. If it looks good, it probably is going to taste better if it looks good. Regardless of what the taste of it is. Right. So I mean, what's the plan? Are you looking to publish a cookbook or?
Yeah, I'm looking to put out a cookbook. I don't know if I'm going to self-publish or if I'm going to seek a publisher, but it's going to take a very long time.
Yeah.
Because I've got 12 recipes right now. And ideally, I want to research and see whether it's 20 or 30 or, the amount that a first time cook puts out a cookbook, how many recipes really should you put in there?
So and then I do like a character thing where it's like, so I can see some characterized versions of you on the cover of the cookbook holding some plates. And
that might be, I have a logo, an art and cooking logo. It doesn't have me in it.
Okay.
Which makes it look much more appetizing. But my goal is to go to people's homes every once in a while. I don't want to do this full time, but every couple of weekends, prep the food at home, take it to the people's homes, put it together, heat it up, plate it, serve it, and then go home. For small parties, like 8 to 10 people.
Okay. So I can kind of in-home chef occasionally.
In-home private chef, what's the word I'm looking for? It's ad hoc chef, where I come in just when people want to hire me, but I don't cook for them, permanently.
Full time. Right. So it's almost kind of like, you're doing character events, but now they're cooking events.
Yeah. Like if you're having a Super Bowl party, a lot of people think, oh, what should I bring? What do you want me to bring? I would do all that.
A chef.
I would work with the person having the party and say, what do you want to have?
Right.
Here's some options. Like here's 5 to 10 options that I can make. And a variety of things, so you're not getting all this 2 of the same thing, or And then, yeah, that's what I want. I want to do that part-time just for a little extra money and increase my cooking skill and technique. I wouldn't want to cook full-time in a restaurant.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like cooking is the one thing for me because I don't know about you, but for me, every time I've liked something, it's like, okay, how can I turn this into a profit? How can I turn this into a job? Like, what can I, because for me, just the interest with photography, videography, whatever it is, like, okay, now I got to find a job doing this. But cooking
right,
is like the one thing that I really like doing that I have no interest in doing outside of my own kitchen.
right.
You
I
know
don't
what
want to do it professionally
Yeah,
for other than a little bunch of people.
right,
But I've created a video. I did 2 videos on Instagram on my reels that I had to take multiple pictures and videos while I was cooking and edit and cut them together,
right.
which was I really enjoyed it. Do
Yeah,
I
well, I
want to
mean,
do it full
it's
time? No,
sure.
but
What's
I don't
also
mind doing it for me.
right, right. What's more of the creative process too, even just the editing and how you're presenting that stuff. I
Sure.
mean, I mean, all art is presentation where you're thinking about how I'm going to write this form, how I'm going to, present this piece of art, this figure, whatever it is. Just
Right.
kind of another level of that. That's
So what I was going to say, I went off topic because I forgot what I was talking about, but with the display. So when I started really purposefully displaying the tables so I could draw for people, I had a tablecloth, I had a hand-drawn sign that said "Get drawn as any character." I had a little like a binder with some sheets in it that I just stuck samples in that were really
mhm.
horrible. They were done in colored pencil, and I look at them now, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I have them on
I
my
think we all
phone. I
have
have
that art.
all my old artwork.
We all have those
But
pieces.
so I did that, and now now you see my display. I've got 2 banners behind me. One has got a variety of different types of art I do, as well as the other one's got the prints on it. And then I've got the 2 books that you can see that sit vertical, so people can flip through them as they walk by. And my tablecloth's got all my art on it. And I do love orange. Yes,
Yeah, it's really like when I say it's orange, I don't mean it's like, oh my God, look at that
it's
orange
like
backdrop. It's
it's like
inviting. It's
yeah,
like a
it's like
sherbet,
where's Scott? Just look for the orange booth because you'll
Yeah.
find him.
No, I mean it's cool because every time that we do a show, I know for me personally, I'm sure for you, like we always learn something. And it doesn't matter how many shows you've done, there's always something that you
Right.
kind of learn from the person that's next to you. And I remember when we had Terrificon, we were kind of sitting there and the woman next to me was just she had these like anime pillows and it was like fucking hotcakes. That she couldn't keep them in stock. It was nuts. She was
Yeah.
selling out of everything. And then the
Hmm.
awesome guy next to you that I don't remember his name, but he had all the
But yeah, all
stickers
those
and
stickers. Yeah.
I still have the stickers and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's the things that you kind of pick up from people. It's like, oh, this and that. And my favorite sticker that I have that I'll probably ever have that I have on my board behind me is the one that you did of Chris Farley's Hellboy.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's actually on the back window of my car.
that's
I
fucking
put a big
awesome.
I put a big sticker that says "I live in hell in a van by the river" on the back of my car.
Like sometimes you just see those things. You're like, oh my God, this is I haven't seen this before. It's fucking awesome. It's
Yeah,
so
and I
cool
mean
that
that idea came from I was watching another streamer draw, and he was talking about the new Hellboy movie,
yeah,
and I said I don't like the actor for that movie. He's too jokey. He's um too jovial, not serious enough. And then he said, well, anybody could play Hellboy. Well, maybe not Chris Farley. And an
that's
hour later, I
so
had drawn that picture.
that's so funny.
It's like I gotta draw him as the guy with the jacket and the
Yeah,
cool fingers. And
I mean, Hellboy is like one of my all-time favorite characters. I mean, he's probably top two for me. So I mean, to see something like that, it's just like I obviously grew up on Chris Farley movies and think he's fucking hilarious. So it's just like
yeah,
this
he
is
was awesome.
awesome. I still to this day like I want to get that on a shirt. I just want to get a T-shirt with that printed on it, and I'll wear it every day.
I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link.
Perfect, fucking A, and we'll post that too because I'm gonna obviously we'll include all the links
Yeah.
in the video description too. So I mean, there's a lot of kind of cool little things that you've done like that. I mean, do you have any kind of favorite pieces or favorite things that you've done or
I did a piece and I was commissioned. It was out of the Midwest. I don't know how they found me. Maybe they saw me at a convention, and I don't usually ask how they found me,
Hmm,
but maybe I should.
yeah.
So she wanted me to draw her husband as Batman. That's all she said. Draw him as Batman, and she wanted 11 by 14. So I drew him as Batman, but I drew him as Batman crouching on a gargoyle with like a observatory behind him with the glass dome and it's night sky with the moon in the background. And I mean, I put hours into this piece and I loved every second of it.
Right.
And she got it, and she couldn't thank me enough for the piece because she wasn't expecting what I sent her.
It's
She
always
was
nice and over
expecting just
deliver.
him as Batman on the paper. And then I used to use that as a display piece. I had a full size copy of it, and I put it in a frame. And I'm sitting there one day at a show, and I think it was Terrificon maybe, but I'm standing at my table, and a guy walks up and stands in front of me, and he goes, it was the guy I drew.
Oh, wow.
He and his wife had come to the show and specifically sought me out. And I took a picture of us with his picture that I drew of him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's fucking awesome.
yeah. Another
It's gonna be
time I
such a
was
cool
at a
feeling.
terror convention, and a woman came up and said, "Can you draw me as Catwoman and my husband as Batman?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Bring him over. I'll take a picture with my phone." And she said, "Well, he's in a panel at the moment." And I thought he was in a panel, sitting in a
As a guest.
panel,
Right.
watching. She said, "Well, let me bring you a picture." And she came over and gave me a headshot. And it was, I don't remember his name. He played a detective on like a vampire-y horror type show, Grimm.
Okay. I'm not familiar.
He was the black guy. Pardon me for saying that, but I don't remember his name. But he was a black detective. And so I drew it and I texted her that I was done. And I said, "Come on over and I'll give it to you." And she said, "Okay." And she's walking over toward my table, and he's just got this grim, pardon the pun, grim expression on his face. And he's thinking, "What the hell am I going over here for?"
Right.
And she goes over there, and she points right at me, goes over there, comes to my table, and he's got this look like, "Why am I here?" And then I stood up and I flipped it over and I showed it to him, and all he said was, "Oh shit!" And he took it out of my hands and just looked at it.
That's awesome.
With a big smile on his face. So that the money's great.
Right.
I do conventions to see you guys,
Yeah.
see my con family, socialize with people that know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
I love my wife to death, but she has no interest in comics or toys or anything that I'm interested in except for being creative.
Yeah.
So when I can go to a con and everything I say to everybody, they completely know what I'm talking about. And the smiles and the reaction, that's what I really like.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember even sitting next to you at the table, just was, obviously we became fast friends, and, I was with two other guys and we all kind of got along, and, we were a con family pretty soon, but it's like, it's those interactions that, I remember everybody coming up and everybody leaving your table with a smile, and even people that had been there 4 or 5 times, like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet?
Yeah.
Still excited about it.
That one kid.
Yeah. I'm dressed as Spider-Man too.
Yep.
I'll never forget it. But I mean, when you do cons, you kind of take the good with the bad, and
yeah. Well, when I go to cons, I introduce myself to everyone.
Sure.
If I don't know you, and I know you're sitting next to me, I'm going to introduce myself.
Definitely.
And if you tell me that this is only your first or second show, you can attest to this. I'll say, if you have any questions about doing conventions, you let me know.
Well, it's not even. It's like, do you need electricity? Do you got this?
Yeah.
Do you need this?
You need this? Do you need a charging cord?
I just remember the beef jerky. That stuff was so good.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh man, yeah. That's like, I think that's the toughest part of the last couple of years, at least for me, is not being able to do the shows. And I mean, I don't do a lot. I only do maybe 3 or 4 a year if it's a good year. But not being able to do anything, and then I'm just looking forward to kind of getting back out there and trying to do more shows.
Oh yeah, the pandemic stuff really. Obviously, it was understood that you don't want to be out there in public and interacting with people when you don't want to get the virus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, getting back into the swing of things. Like, I did my first show after a year and a half. It was a little show in New Hampshire, and it felt weird.
Yeah. Even Terrificon felt weird. Like, I remember when
walking into a room with people and setting up, but then once I sat down, it was like it never stopped.
Yeah.
It went right back to being comfortable.
Yeah, that was the first show that I had done in probably a year and a half, 2 years, because a lot of other shows gotten canceled. And I remember even not being sure if that was going to kind of go, and if anybody was even going to come. And then, just seeing everybody there, like, the Lee Weekses of the world and Klaus Jansen, and Yeah, it's so many people that we got a chance to meet, kind of dance on like a rooker a little bit and all that
Oh,
fun
wow.
stuff.
I
Yeah,
had no
it's
idea.
well, he came by and then so basically I don't know if you remember where we were set up. They would walk through Artist
Yeah.
Alley to
Yeah. Yeah.
get
Yeah.
to where they were.
Right.
So he walked by in the morning when I was setting up one time and he was kind of doing this little dance down the aisle. So I kind of did a little dance with him. So he did like a little turn with me and then kept going. And I was like, he just had his little hat
That's
on. I was like,
awesome.
don't you let her go, Gabe. I did the whole like cliffhanger thing to him. And he was just like, kind of looked at me
Oh,
and
the
smiled.
Sylvester Stallone movie. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Cool. Because everybody knows him as Yondu, but I hit him with the fucking
Right.
cliffhanger from
Right.
1993.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So those little moments, like that's the stuff that I love. And I kind of have a funny story too. Like I don't want to mention kind of names because I don't know, but so I met this artist. He's a comic artist, inker. He's worked on every one of my favorite books from, for forever. So I was really excited to meet him. So I went up to him and I was just like, hey, thanks so much for coming out. Like it really meant a lot to me that you came out. And he's like, oh, thank you. Like I really appreciate that. And I was like, yeah, just thanks so much. Like it's great to see you. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. So then I get back to the table and I was so excited because I had the piece that he had signed and I met one of my icons and one of my heroes and he was super nice. And I was talking to my friends and I was like, man, I just met so-and-so. I was really excited. And he's like, oh dude, that's great. He's actually, he's fantastic. He's one of the first and like really only open artists in the community. Like he's open about it. And I was like, wait a second. I just went and told this guy, like, thanks so much for coming out. And he was like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, does he just think that I came out too?
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing when you just said it.
Yeah, but I was like, oh shit. Like, that's not what I meant. Like, I just meant, you're an older guy. This is a, COVID pandemic. Like, you came out all the way to the show.
Thanks
Like,
for
thanks
coming
so
to the
much for
show.
coming out,
Right.
know?
Oh,
But
and he had come out?
But he's out, I guess, apparently. So he
Oh.
probably thought, me being like, thanks so much for coming out.
Oh,
He
my
probably
God.
thought
Wow.
like, he inspired me to
Wow.
come out too. So yeah, just those kind of funny concepts.
That's a cool interaction though,
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't want to mention, I guess
No,
it's
you
open, but I
don't
don't, it's not, I'm not kind of, but it's just, those little kind of funny things that happen at shows that, the once in a kind of lifetime moments, good or bad, whether it's, accidentally coming out to your favorite artist or getting kind of rejuvenating an art career for characters, they're kind of one and the same.
I've always been somebody who doesn't care what you look like, what your orientation is, what your gender identification is.
Sure.
I just know you as your name.
Yeah, for sure.
I respect you for your decisions. I respect you for what you do. Love your talent, no matter who you are.
For sure.
People are people, and that's all I ever look at.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious because I'm like, wow, I accidentally came out to my favorite artist and didn't even realize.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing about conventions is that there's a lot of people that
so many people get to be themselves, that's like the one point and one couple hours and one weekend or whatever it is, they really just get to be themselves and kind of embrace who they want to be.
Have a good time, do what you love, and
no judgment.
And everybody's there for the same reason.
Yeah.
The artists and the vendors and the attendees, they're all there to just have a good time and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird thing because art for the most part is such a solitary thing. For me, it's hours every day in front of a desk by myself, maybe with music on or something. And, the only real interaction you have is if you're watching a video, if you're listening to a podcast or something. And then, to be able to go out and kind of do shows and have that interaction, it kind of, it's validating in a lot of ways, not, to say like, oh, am I good or not? But it's just those interactions of like my favorite moments is when I post a piece of art and someone's like, oh, I feel that, like that relates to me. That's my, like, I don't care if you like it. I mean, that's great if it's a bunch of people like the stuff too. But to me, the best interactions are the ones where people are like, wow, that made me feel something. Because that's why I do it. I think that's why you do it too. It's that kind of connection that can only be done through a piece of art or through that kind of, that type of currency.
Right.
Yeah, but I definitely miss it. Yeah, for sure. And I know you do too. So, I mean, I like everybody that I've talked to so far in the show, it's been, the pandemic has been the most productive kind of time of their lives. Like, even though it's at a standstill, I mean, do you kind of feel the same way? I feel like it kind of has been for you, with art still going and a cookbook now.
So I started streaming from home and I've been working from home for 8 years. So when the pandemic hit, other than not being able to do conventions, nothing changed for me at all. Because I work in my basement. I got a studio in my basement.
Right.
I have my gaming stuff here. I got my work set up over there. So I work over there, and then as soon as I'm done, I slide over here
Right.
and do non-work stuff. And I really, other than going to movies or going out to eat every once in a while, I didn't really leave the house much.
Probably the only
Because
difference was spending more time with your wife because now she's probably
right,
home.
right. I'm super social, but I do not mind at all being by myself for long
Right.
periods of time.
Right.
Like my wife is leaving on Sunday to go spend time with her mom in Florida, and I'll be by myself for a couple months.
Oh,
I'm good
wow.
with that.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
really good with that.
Yeah.
My kitchen's going to turn into a test kitchen. I'm going to be trying all kinds of different things and making all kinds of messes, and nobody's going to be able to tell me to clean it up.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it is a solitary thing, and we do like those interactions, but it's kind of an escape. It's like going on a little vacation, and sometimes you just want to kind of go solo. I get that.
Sure. If I'm sitting downstairs, I mean, and I don't totally isolate. I talk
Sure.
to people I game with.
Yeah.
I talk to every couple of days. We have meetings where I talk to people on, Zoom. So I go to Dunkin' Donuts and get coffee every once in a while, so I see real people.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm not a hermit, but
hey, man, sometimes the world is overrated. It really is. It's social.
Going out is not as hype as it's made out to be.
You know what it is too. Like if I go out, I don't remember the last time I went out. I don't remember the last time that I was able to go to bed beyond like 8:30. Like yesterday, I'm like, oh, fucking the new Scream movie's on Paramount. Awesome, I'm gonna watch that tonight. I didn't. I was in bed at 8 o'clock. You know what I mean? It's like maybe tonight I'll try to stay up a little bit late, but you get up early to try to get stuff done. But
at my age, I can only sleep 7 hours, so I stay up till midnight.
Right.
Wake up around 7:30, and then I start my day at 8. So
yeah. For me, like it's a little different. I mean, I'm probably like the 7 hour mark too. I don't think I think it's like it's usually like 6. If I get anything over 6, it's like a bonus. But I'm up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every day because that's the time that I have to kind of, with the kids in school and getting all the breakfasts and all that stuff done, getting them out the door. My wife, she leaves for work about like 6:45. So, I mean, I get that like 4:44, 4:45, 5 o'clock to like 6:30 time. And that's my work time where it's art or, this other project I'm working on too. Cause I mean, it's, what it's like to have multiple things going on and you still want to kind of put that time into everything. And,
well, the other thing is, so you were talking about inspiration earlier is this past November, we had our first International Society of Caricature Artists convention in person in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
It had been, we hadn't had it the year before. And I don't know if we had it the year before that either, but we had it, virtual and in person. So it was like a hybrid. And then roughly a month ago, I attended a Korean online caricature convention where I worked till 3. And then the rest of the afternoon and evening, I was drawing with people from Korea and Japan. And
it's fucking awesome.
It was really fun.
Cool.
Whenever I do conventions, caricature conventions, I always get really jazzed up and energized, and because I'm drawing people all week.
Sure.
And then I try to put out the best work I can put out at that time. And then the next convention, I'll try a different technique. It's constantly trying to improve yourself and keep the passion. I mean, the passion's in me. I'll draw regardless if people want it or not. But it's definitely being alone. You got a lot to think about when you're not going out.
Sure.
So you try to keep yourself busy, and if you don't have drive, you're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's nice too, just like as long as you 30 years in the industry working and doing stuff to still have passion and to still want to get better and to still want to improve and to think that you can improve. I mean, it's a pretty humble attitude that, a lot of artists we know don't have the same kind of attitude about stuff.
Right.
So,
sure. Well, I heard of a saying the other day that practice makes perfect. No, get that mindset out of your head right now.
Yeah.
Practice makes improvement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I like that.
And as an artist, you'll never be done learning. You can draw for 100 years and you still can learn something new every time you pick up a pen or a pencil.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was younger, I still to this day love Van Halen, but that was one of the first bands that I was just like really fired up about. And I remember reading something where it was Eddie Van Halen, his sound, the brown sound that he's got, he was constantly chasing the sound of Alex's snare drum. So in his mind, that was kind of the perfect intonated tone that he wanted to get that he could never get to. And for me, I kind of understand it because it's like I'm constantly chasing that kind of style that I do or that piece of art that I did the way that I wanted to do it. That's like that perfect kind of coming together of the vision and the execution and these things. And it's I know that I'm never going to get there, but it's like every time I set out to do a piece, that's kind of the mindset that I have. It's like, is this I'm going to get there with this one, it's like I'm going to get as close with this technique that I wanted to do, and I remember to do this time correctly, so it's like I'm always kind of chasing that brown sound, so to speak, just as far as art goes. So I mean, I know that's
Well,
it's
a
kind of
lot
the
of
motivation for me.
I know a lot of artists, and this is I'm in a lot of art communities now on Facebook and social media, and the one prevalent question artists ask new artists is, how do I develop my style? I said, you
Yeah,
don't develop your style, you just draw and practice, and your style emerges.
yeah,
Like if I mean, you know me, so if you went to a convention and you took me and Brian Hitch and Nick Bradshaw, and you put our art on a
be able
table.
to
If you didn't put any names on
differentiate
it, we
everybody's
weren't there,
art.
and you
Yeah,
could say, who drew this stuff?
yeah.
Now, granted, I'm not even in their league, but you'd say,
It's a
well, that's Nick
recognizable style,
Bradshaw.
though.
Yeah, you'd say
Sure,
that's Nick Bradshaw, and people that know my work would say that's Scott Hamilton.
sure.
That's his style.
I mean, perfect example when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about some people that were swiping art.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
away I
which
was
is
like, hey
disgusting.
man, that's this guy. Like it's
Right,
an
right,
instantly identifiable style that you're kind of swiping off of. And
right.
I've seen that piece. Like I know that artist that did that. Like it's such an identifiable style. So yeah, I mean that could kind of both hurt and help you, I guess, depending on what it is.
Yeah,
But
there are a lot of people that are lazy, don't want to
yeah,
do the work, so they steal other people's art and try to pass it off as their own. But then you have me and others who are like eagle eyes with
yeah,
people who draw certain things, and we know that it wasn't them that drew it.
sure. It's just so
Um,
weird that like for me, I know for you too, it's like it's art is such an extension of kind of what we do. Like it
mhm.
doesn't matter what if you never had an iPad, if every iPad in the fucking world died and you never could use an iPad, you'd still find a way to draw. If whether it was paper, whatever the case may be, we'd always find a
Right.
way to kind of create something. But then
Sure.
you have people like that I feel like it's just they're kind of they just want the clout. They just want someone to think that they're good at
Right.
something. It's not
They
really
want
about.
their 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, it's just in such a weird way too, because like I don't know. It's luckily that I haven't run into too many of those types of people. I mean, for the most part, the amount of artists that I think are pieces of shit, I can count on less than three fingers versus the amount of
Hmm.
artists that I've met that I'm still friends with. And,
Right.
I don't have enough digits to count them. So, I mean,
Right.
luckily it seems like the scales are not anywhere near even as far as that goes. But, I think the thing that's weird for me is like they do that kind of stuff today when literally like everybody can see, like there's no hiding behind anything.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking it doesn't make sense to me that people are going to swipe and post it and not think that they're going to get caught or called out.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I didn't realize. It's whatever the lame excuse is, or oh,
Yeah.
I didn't sell it. It was just for me. It's
It
like,
was, I didn't. A friend asked for me to draw it because it's a fan art. I'm like, well, then
yeah,
why are you selling it on your Etsy?
yeah. Why
I
did you make
mean,
copies of it? Why are you selling
yeah.
prints?
And as a caricature artist, I've been, and I know other caricature artists that have been walking in New York or even in
Mm,
other countries, and you see these art caricature artists that do like $5 a person with their banners with art on it. And as a caricature artist who knows other caricature artists, we can pick out who drew each one,
mm.
and it's not the person sitting in that chair.
I mean, it's just like the print junkies at all the conventions too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I know an artist friend of mine who's literally been at shows and walked up and seen prints of his that he didn't authorize being sold by the print people.
Wow.
It's just, yeah, art theft is a real thing. I mean, do
Hmm.
you like, are you, I don't, I probably should because from just what I've heard and what I've seen and what people have said as far as like watermarking and doing things to kind of better protect yourself. But I don't really kind of do any of
I
that
don't
stuff.
watermark. I don't watermark
Yeah.
things.
I've
If
seen
I'm
some really
doing piece,
shitty art watermarks too, which is
yeah.
kind of funny.
If I'm doing a piece for a client and I haven't gotten paid yet, yes, I'll put a big old splashy
Yeah.
watermark over the front of the art.
Right.
But when I'm posting art online, and the art I post online 90% of the time is either art I've done for like a convention,
Mm.
like a caricature convention, or a piece that I've already given to somebody, or um, something I did personally. I didn't sell it.
Yeah.
So to date, I have not seen anything that I've drawn that anyone has tried to sell
Me
as
neither.
theirs.
Maybe I guess maybe that's the goal for 2022 is to get to the point that someone wants to steal my
Someone
art,
wants to
pass it
steal
off
your
as
art
their
and sell
own.
it.
That's the goal for this year, I guess. So I mean, with the gaming and stuff too, like how do you find a balance between work and kind of leisure? Because they all kind of blend a little bit into the same thing, depending on whether it's the cooking or the art or the gaming. I mean, it's all at certain points they're work and certain points they're fun. So
Well,
how do you figure it out?
excuse me. So work is work. I love my job. I've been at my job almost 10 years. I love my job. I've never woken up on a Monday and thought I don't want to work today. And I've never
Right.
on Friday gone, oh, thank God it's the weekend.
Sure.
For 10 years, I've loved every day of my job.
That's great.
And that's over there. But once I turn off that, this is completely different. That goes right out of my head. I don't think about what I have to do for the next day. I'm done.
Yeah.
When I cook, cooking is always fun, always, because A, I like doing it.
Right.
B, I like getting better at it, and C, I like to eat it when I'm done.
Yeah, it's a win-win-win. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Do you have
So,
favorites that you like to cook, or I mean?
I that's another thing I was trying to figure out is what do I want to make a cookbook out of? Because I don't want to just put 15 disparate
Yeah.
recipes that have nothing to do with
Here's a
one
tuna
another.
melt. Here's a patty melt.
Here's a ravioli I
Here's a
made from
ravioli.
scratch.
Right.
Here's a pork loin I made. Here's some
Ooh.
bread I baked. So I like to bake from scratch, and I like to make my favorite thing right now is to make pasta from scratch.
Mm.
So like one day, the first time I made ravioli, I did it first time using a pasta roller,
Wow.
first time using an edger, first time shaping it. And for me as an artist, it was not perfect. I was a little disappointed because it wasn't perfectly square and perfectly, formed, but it didn't leak out when I cooked it, and it was perfectly tasty and it was enjoyable. So the
Yeah,
weekend
Italian's
after,
my favorite.
and I kneaded dough for 10 minutes, and my arms and my shoulders were sore. I mean, because that's work.
Yeah.
So the next weekend when I said, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of different pastas. I'm going to try a bunch of different techniques. I'm going to use my KitchenAid, let it do all the kneading. I'm just going to cut the pasta and roll it. And so, I said, oh, let me make some tortellini.
Mm.
All right, let me make some ravioli. Let me make some tagliatelle, the thick noodle pasta.
Yeah.
And I just made 5 or 10 of a different thing, put them on the plate. And that was for me like practicing my drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your warm-ups kind of.
Yeah. And then I get to eat it when I'm done. So.
Sure. Yeah, oh man, that's awesome. So I mean, do you have kind of a theme as far as the cookbook goes? Do you think it's going to be like Italian stuff or maybe just from scratch in general, or?
It's probably going to be geared toward if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Cooking's not that hard.
Right.
It's like anything else you do. It's just practice.
Right. That's so
A lot
cool,
of
man.
people,
I love when people kind of go out on little ventures, like I mean, not necessarily like an entrepreneurial kind of thing. In some cases, yes, because there's a product or there's a service or something, but it's just cool when you can kind of find something else that you like to do that you can bring everything that you've learned and the skills into that.
right? Well, like drawing. So you're a painter, and you do ink drawing and ink wash. When I'm drawing with ink, I'm doing
Right.
different line weights, and I'm putting down pressure or easing up on pressure to make different shapes as I'm drawing in the same stroke. And with the knife skills,
Mm.
when I started cutting with a knife, I was not fast at all. It was super slow. And now I'm like chop, 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 chop.
Sure.
But it's just like learning to control a pencil, controlling a knife.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, learning how to form ravioli. It's like composing a picture on a page.
Right.
Plating is the same as, taking what I drew and coloring it. So yeah, it all blends.
That's awesome. I mean, do you have like any inspirations? I know obviously with art, we have lots of inspirations. Do you have any cooking inspirations? Anybody that you're like, oh man, this guy got
I
me into?
love Gordon Ramsay. I
Yeah, me
love
too.
Jacques Pepin. I like Jeffrey Zakarian. I like Julia Child. I bought both of her cookbooks.
That's cool.
At some point, I want to go through them and cook stuff, but there's a lot of recipes in those books. They're like that thick.
Yeah, a lot of like I feel like traditional kind of recipes too that are the old school kind of family kind of Sunday dinner recipes. Maybe not necessarily
Right.
the fastest thing, but they're probably pretty fucking good.
And then there's I live I'm on Instagram and Facebook way too much, but there are a lot of cooks on Instagram. And there's one Matteo Zalanco who makes pasta. He's amazing. And I followed his instructions on making my ravioli.
Ooh,
so that's an inspiration.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Such a great time to kind of do things too, just with social media. I mean, I know obviously social media, there's a lot of aspects of it that are pretty shitty, but for the most part, like just being able to connect with an audience that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, and to be able to see things that you wouldn't be able to see. Yeah, it's I guess it's like anything, there's the good and the bad. Just kind of it is what you make of it, and if you can make it something that's good for you, it's fucking great.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of just ignore the bad. So
I try to be as positive as possible when whatever I do.
Sure.
I don't think anybody's ever going to say they met me anywhere and said I wasn't a nice guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely not. Especially when you're kind of, like I said, you're even dealing with people that are coming up like, hey, is this done yet? Hey, is this done yet? And you're still like, nope, not yet. But
not yet,
like,
buddy, but
listen,
a little bit. Not yet. I'll text your dad when it's done.
Yeah.
That's another thing about technology is when I would do caricatures before smartphones came into being and texts, I would have multiple people. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And I would tell them, come back in 30 minutes. And they come back in 15. Is it done? Nope. It's at 30 minutes. Now I immediately say, tell me what you want. Take your picture. Give me your phone. I'll text you when it's done.
It's a business. It's good.
And 99% of the people don't come back and ask if it's done.
Yeah.
But then, and it's usually kids that come back and check and see if it's done, not adults.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they're really excited.
I was going to say they're more excited than anything because they want to see themselves as Spider-Man or Batman or Power Ranger, whatever.
But the moment you get frustrated with a customer is the moment that you no longer have a customer. Right.
Right. So what's next for you? I mean, what's on the docket? Where can we see you? Where can people catch you?
I'll be at the Little Giant Comic Show next month. Then I'll also be at Wicked Awesome Con in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, they're bringing back the guys Bob Shaw and Kim Shaw and other people that Kirby Chin who worked with Boston Comic Con before it went commercial are doing Wicked Awesome Con, and it's going right back to the way it was when Boston Comic Con was a thing. So a few celebrities, but mostly just comic artists and inkers and writers and creators and comics.
That's awesome.
No pillows, no toys, no root beer, trucks, just the stuff that you normally want to see at a convention.
Right. Awesome. Well, I mean, I know we're going to post obviously your links in the video description so people can check it out. You got to keep us updated on the cookbook because I definitely want a copy of it. I want it autographed.
Once I sit down and start putting everything together, right now it's just taking pictures and putting the recipes on my phone. And then every time I cook, then it's the same thing as drawing. Now every time I cook, I have to set up my camera and video or take a picture of every single thing I'm doing and then go back and edit it all.
Yeah. The editing is the fun part. It's like for me, at least with the video stuff, like the editing is where you can really just do whatever you want to do. Yeah.
But the video editing, I just do it with my phone.
Right.
I just sit on my couch, lean back, open up InShot and just start editing video.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
That's the perfect thing,
Same with pictures. I've got an app called Snapseed. So I sit on my couch and I edit my pictures with Snapseed, change the color, brightness, all that stuff, and tweaking stuff. So yeah. I'll absolutely keep you in the loop.
Are you doing GamerCon this year?
Which is that this Connecticut GamerCon?
Yeah. I think it's actually okay. Do you do something?
I've never done that one.
Okay.
And I always think I want to do it, but then I think Yeah, it might be good.
Yeah.
But kids are people that are like, when I go to PAX, I don't go to PAX to buy things, and I go to PAX to stand in line and play games. That's
Yeah,
what I
for
go to
sure.
PAX for.
Plus, it'd be weird kind of going to a con where you're not drawing. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Well, if I went to CT GamerCon, that's what I'd be doing, is drawing people as video game characters.
That's cool. That's actually a really good
But I'd
idea.
also have to I'd have to make new samples with video game characters,
too.
and I'd have to re-gear the table to specifically bring in people that want to be drawn as game characters.
Definitely.
And it's amazing. People will walk by my table to this day after 30 years and say, they'd look at it and they go, and like they have no idea what I do. And it's plastered all over my table.
I mean, it's like the whole con thing, like con bingo, like what you play when people come. Did you draw this? Did you do this? And it's like I post on my Instagram account, which if you've taken one look on my Instagram account, you can probably kind of guess what I do. And I'll have people ask, hey, did you draw this? Like, I posted it and I drew it. Yeah, I drew it. It's
like when people look down at you while you're drawing with your pen on the paper and say, did you draw that?
No,
like, nope, my hand did. I'm just watching.
Yeah. I'm a bystander. It's like, what the fuck with that movie with the hand that just, I forget what it was called. It's like a horror movie.
From the Addams Family.
Yeah, basically. Awesome. Well, I know that you've got a lot of stuff going on, and I definitely appreciate you coming on the show and sharing.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, bro.
Definitely. And like I said, we'll go ahead and post up the link so people can keep in touch and keep track of what you're doing and where they can kind of scope you out. And I'm looking forward to seeing you this summer at Terrificon for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, it's going to be fun. We'll have to go out to dinner and
socialize
afterwards as well.
It's a great spot to go because you can just go get food wherever you want, right in the casino.
Right.
So
you don't have to leave the building. Yeah,
it's fantastic. Well, awesome, man. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The wonderful Scott Hamilton. This has been the Starving Artist Podcast. We will see you again soon. The Starving Artist Podcast with Dave Fowler.